You're watching the Urban Debate on Mirror now. The GST Council is going to meet on Saturday this week, and the demand to reduce the tax liability on sanitary napkins has intensified. Now, our viewers will know currently sanitary napkins are placed in the 12% tax slab and tampons fall in the 18% tax slab. Now, these slabs are for luxury items. And our government will do well to remember that menstruation is not a luxury. It's a medical necessity. Women cannot choose not to have their periods, and when they do have their periods, it is best advised that they use the most hygienic forms of sanitary towels or pads at that time. In July this year, the Students' Federation of India sent sanitary napkins to the Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, demanding an immediate withdrawal of the GST on those napkins. The napkins had "Bleed without fear" written on them. Now, while the government justified the tax slab using numbers and jargons, and I quote, there was a press release put out by the government that said this: reducing the GST on sanitary napkins to nil will result in a complete denial of input tax credit to domestic manufacturers of sanitary napkins, while zero rating on imports. In fact, we've spoken to those who manufacture sanitary napkins in India, at least the Indian sanitary napkin manufacturers, who are just a small sliver of the entire market. Most of the market belongs to global companies, companies that actually are from overseas, multinational companies. Are these the companies really that the government has been trying to protect up until now? The fact is, after meeting with Arun Jaitley last year, Assam MP Sushmita Dev revealed, and I quote, that his major concern, however, is the loss to the exchequer that would incur if the cash or commercially produced sanitary napkins tax is reduced. According to the petition filed before the Delhi High Court, bad menstrual hygiene is behind nearly 70% of reproductive diseases. Costly sanitary napkins would therefore deter more women from observing menstrual hygiene, hence impacting their health. And while hearing the matter, the Delhi High Court pointed out, have you discussed this matter with the Women and Child Development Ministry before doing this? It asked the Finance Ministry if it had in fact only looked at import and export duty, or had it also considered the needs of women. Speaking to the Ministry of Women and Child Development, Maneka Gandhi had actually written to Arun Jaitley in March last year and asked him to provide a 100% tax exemption for eco-friendly and biodegradable sanitary napkins under GST. But in February, she said that sanitary napkins GST was acceptable at 12%. The fact of the matter is that this is a necessity, like I said, and it's not a luxury. We also know from data that has been pointed out that about 80% of the women in our country don't have access to sanitary napkins. They use instead other things like cloth, sand in some cases, leaves in some others. It leads not just to infections, but in some cases to cancer. A cut from 12% to 5% on the tax on sanitary napkins won't make a really big deal to the government. It should be less than 4.5 crore rupees. It should be less than 4.5 crore rupees from what I understand, but it will save thousands of lives. Countries like Canada, Ireland, Kenya, Jamaica have abolished tax altogether. Will India consider abolishing that tax this year? Joining me on the show, Deepika Sharma is a BJP spokesperson. Zarita Laflang is a spokesperson for the Congress. Trisha Shetty, founder of She Says, who started the campaign called Lahuka Lagan. Abhishek Rastogi is a tax partner with Ketan and Company. Sahil Daria is the global head of operations at Sooth Healthcare. They manufacture sanitary napkins in India, one of the few companies that manufacture sanitary napkins in India. Yogita Bayana is a women's rights activist. I welcome all of you to this conversation. Opening arguments by each. Trisha Shetty, your battle is over a year old. When we partnered with you a year ago, I remember when you started this and took it up at the High Courts. What sort of responses have you received from the government so far, and how important is it for the GST Council this weekend to consider bringing down this tax?
You know, we have been fighting for this issue since 2016. We first initially filed representations with multiple government authorities, then be it the Ministry of Finance, be it under the, the Pharmaceuticals Act as well. And our demands from the very beginning were make sanitary napkins tax-free, consider putting a price ceiling on sanitary napkins, because again, the argument then becomes that they'll inflate the cost. So we said put a price ceiling on it, declare it as an essential commodity under the Essential Commodities Act, because when you do that, you can automatically put a price ceiling on necessary products. Fourth was insisting on transparency when it comes to government schemes, because we filed multiple RTIs to realize that the way these sanitary napkins are distributed under the schemes is through tender. And there is no transparency in the process of how the tenders are procured, how the tenders are then, how the sanitary napkins are then distributed. And when we did multiple surveys, we realized that even though the government has time and again been saying that they're going to distribute low-cost sanitary napkins in schools and amongst impoverished and vulnerable communities, in actuality, that was not happening. And so that's what we asked for. We also asked for help for self-help groups and investment in the self-help groups to ensure that locally produced sanitary napkins could also be boosted, because currently the market is dominated by Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson, which leads to the high costs. So we covered all grounds, not just from the tax perspective, but unfortunately, our representation was ignored. They forwarded a representation to the GST Council. Amongst the representation submitted within the GST Council, as was categorically ignored, it was never addressed. In fact, the finance minister did not even choose. As you saw, when it comes to representation, there was one woman in the whole finance ministry. And that goes to show you that lack of representation leads to policies that are passed that are not gender sensitive and inclusive. And because the representation was ignored, we then moved ahead with Lahu Ka Lagan to raise public awareness and mobilize people at large to lend their support behind this issue. And when we launched Lahu Ka Lagan, we did not spend any money behind this campaign, but it went viral. Faye, as you know, with Mirror Now support as well, within 24 hours, where we received bipartisan political support with people across sectors, men, women, including, were petitioning and took up this issue as their own and asked the finance minister what is the reason behind continuing to tax women 12%, when we know that up to 80% of women don't use sanitary napkins because they cannot afford it.
Yes.
Not because they don't know about it, but because they can't afford it. And when you ask women, what women will tell you is, listen, it is a sustained cost for us. You may provide us sanitary napkins for 1 month, but what about the month after that? It is a sustained cost. So we have to choose between putting food on our table or using a sanitary napkin when we bleed, which is why they choose to use ash, plastic, dried leaves. I mean, it's not a choice. They're forced to use unsafe alternatives, which is leading to 70% increase in reproductive tract infection. India is the second leading contributor to cervical cancer death rates. 23% girls dropping out of school upon reaching menarche. Second leading cause after forced labor. And all of this is causing women to be left behind. And it's unfortunate that the government has not taken up this issue, which is why we had to move to court. And the bench in the High Court has passed favorable observations in our favor, asking the government to justify. And even when they came to court, the government was still, dilly-dallying, not giving the right numbers, asking for more time, to which the bench said clearly, you will not have more time, come back with answers. Unfortunately, the case has now moved to Supreme Court and it's pending there.
Well, Deepika Sharma, why, and we found it very interesting that in the GST Council, there are no women at all. And there is, of course, a poor representation of women in government. So while we've been asking for this now for the last 1 year, why is it there are no women in the GST Council? Why is it that the government insists on taxing sanitary napkins like it's a luxury?
First of all, GST Council, it consists of finance ministers and the Union Finance Minister and the Union Finance Secretary. And I think GST Council is a body that is deliberating on economic issues and the tax rate structure of the country. Why bring gender into it?
Oh, it's an
First of
excellent
all.
question.
Second
Please
of
let
all
me
is
answer,
this,
Deepika
that-
Sharma. Deepika Sharma, please, I have the answer. May I please answer?
No,
May I
no,
please answer your
this is-
question?
this is
Please,
very
Deepika
wrong.
Sharma, please
Hey,
let me
this is
answer this
wrong.
question. I know the
I
answer.
have not finished
no,
as yet.
I know the answer.
I
Please
have
let
not
me answer.
finished as yet.
No, Deepika Sharma, you asked me a question.
Please
Why
do
bring
not put
gender into the
gender
GST Council? I'll tell you.
into a
Because
GST
half this
council.
country is women, Deepika Sharma.
Please do not
And
put
if someone
gender.
is going to decide how
A
much money I have to
constitutionally-
spend every month on
a
my menstrual period,
constitutionally-
I would like a woman to be in the
constitutionally
room.
made body, you will be putting gender into it.
Yes, the
Why are
gender
you
has to
putting
be in
gender into it?
everything.
Though it
Gender
is-
has to be in
though-
everything.
though-
How do you take
though-
gender out of it, you tell me? How do you
it
take
is
gender out of
desirable,
it?
Though it is desirable.
Who uses the sanitary napkins?
though it
The men
is
in the GST
desirable
council.
to put women into yes.
Yes.
I will not reply to this, that why 12.5% tax. Trishaji did not answer this question. I do not know why. For 1 year she was petitioning in the High Court and she does not know the reason. The government is not absolutely dilly-dallying. It has given a concrete reply in
I
the
can-
court.
I can
that
rebut
why
that
it
reply
put
blow for blow, by the way.
12.5% GST tax on that. Not blow by blow. Please listen to me first. The thing is this, that there is something in the GST structure which is called as a input tax credit, which goes back to the domestic manufacturer. Now the raw material which is used in the production
Which is what?
of a sanitary napkin,
Which is
say
what?
so the polymers, the polymers,
Which is plastic.
the glue, the
And glue?
polyfibers
Okay.
which are used, they are taxed at
All right.
18%.
No, but the polymers and the fiber is 2% of the total product. The total product is largely cotton. Cotton is taxed at 5%. So that, by the way, was a misleading by the finance ministry. That was not true. Polymers, which is plastic and glue in any sanitary napkin, is less than 2% of the finished product. Anybody who has seen a sanitary napkin can tell you. But obviously in the finance ministry, they're all men. None of them have seen a sanitary napkin.
If the country's finance ministry is giving out a press information bureau press conference, you are denying it.
Yes.
The finance minister himself on record has come on several TV channels, several platforms, public platforms, where he has spoken why the sanitary pads.
So I should take it at face value. You're telling me that if the finance minister says something, I should just take it at face value. I can't have an opinion in a country which has...
There is a proper logic to it, because the sanitary napkins which are imported, say from countries like China, say from countries like
what
USA,
percentage of the market is imported from China? Tell me.
They would not have to pay.
They pay import duty.
They would not have to pay.
You can change the customs and import
on the
duty.
raw material, so they would get a competitive edge.
That is a really weak argument, Deepika Sharma, because if you're importing from China, the government can levy a customs duty or an import duty on that product.
I am only giving you the reason why finance ministry.
I'm telling you why that reason doesn't hold. I'm giving you reasons for why that reason doesn't hold.
I would like to remind you that in the GST council, in the very
there are
GST
no women.
council,
There are
the
no
state
women.
finance ministers,
Nobody in the GST council has ever used a sanitary napkin.
Opposition finance ministers were also there. They
Never
did not
used a
raise their
sanitary napkin.
objection to a 12.5%.
Never used a sanitary napkin. Miss Deepika Sharma, nobody in the GST council has ever used a sanitary napkin because they're all men. None of them have ever seen a sanitary napkin. Polymers and glue, which is plastic and glue, is less than 2% of that product. Will you listen to me? Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me.
Argument also.
But let me make the argument first.
Please do not give this argument, because nobody in the GST council has used a sanitary pad. That is why they put a 12.5% tax.
Yes.
I think this is a bad argument, and kindly don't give it.
Okay. Now one second. Deepika Sharma, you want to listen to me?
You are forgetting one thing, that the same GST council, first listen to me.
No, you listen to me.
The same GST council has exempted tax on more than 300
puja
common
samagri
usage items. on
Puja Samagri, because I can't do without Puja Samagri, but I can do without sanitary napkins.
Bindi, kajals, Puja Samagri is a cottage industry. It was never taxed. It was not taxed even before. Even
so
when
why make a
GST
big
was,
brouhaha about it? Why
introduced,
announce
the
it then?
Bindis, Puja Samagri, these things, they
Why
are
announce
cottage
it?
industry. They are produced.
All right, Deepika Sharma, you have to stop
people.
talking to be able to listen to my rebuttal, but I don't see if that's going to be a problem. All right, you made 3 arguments. Your first argument was that polymers and glue are taxed at a high 18%, if you said, and if you said that if you don't tax it at 12%, you will not be able to get the input tax credit. Now, I want to remind you that any sanitary napkin is about 80% cotton, and cotton is not taxed at 18%. Polymers, which is plastic, which is a strip of plastic. One second, let me finish. Deepika Sharma, let me finish.
Are you actually going to discuss economics and say that the finance ministry of India is wrong?
I'm going to, in this free country, make my argument if you let me.
Finance ministers of all the states.
Finance ministers are all correct and have never made a mistake in their life. Just today, we have a former finance minister who's been charged by the CBI. You won't give him that same credit? Are you telling me finance ministers are always correct?
Okay, he has been charged by CBI because of his corruption.
So this finance minister, we must take everything he says at face value. I don't have the opportunity to argue with the finance minister.
GST
what are you
concept
saying?
is made by an act
All right,
of
let me
parliament.
open this up to the rest of the panel because obviously Deepika Sharma is not in the mood to listen at all. But let me open this up to the panel. I want to bring in Sahil Daria. See, here are my arguments, viewers. First of all, if we're talking about polymers, which is plastic and glue, it is less than 2% of the total product. The larger portion of the product is cotton. Secondly, the argument, Deepika Sharma is still not listening to me, but the argument that if you bring down the tax, Chinese product will flood the market and will crush the Indian manufacturer is not true, because the government has the ability to bring in an import duty on Chinese products and make it more expensive. I mean, there's a whole separate argument to be made about how we are allowing Chinese products to flood our markets in all of the other categories, but we won't get to that. But first, I want to bring in Sahil Daria, one of the few Indian manufacturers, truly Indian, not a global MNC who's sending money overseas, but an Indian manufacturer who's making sanitary napkins for Indian women. You want to rebut the arguments being put forward by Deepika Sharma about how we should not at all ever question the finance minister. Sahil Daria, please.
Well, so thank you, Faye. So a lot of interesting questions here. So let me address the easy ones first, if I may. On the previous discussion, I definitely support, as a company that serves women customers and feminine hygiene market, I'm totally in favor of affirmative action, hiring more women, having more women on boards, and including on the GST Council. I think generally everywhere we need more women representation, and that's part of the problem, is the workforce participation of women is so poor. Coming to the matter at hand of the debate, as a manufacturer of sanitary napkins, we want to expand the market. We definitely want more women to use it, and absolutely on the side of making sanitary pads affordable. But the issue is not as less about emotions and more about mathematics. And as I've said before, input tax credit is an important matter. What we have in the sanitary napkin tax structure is most products that are inputs are taxed at 12 to 18%. In fact, pulp, which you're talking about, it's not cotton, it's actually called pulp, is about 35 to 40% of the product. It's true that's at only 5%, but the bulk of the raw materials are at 12 to 18% is the bulk of the product. So reducing the GST actually makes the transaction less efficient. And there are 3 stakeholders in this debate. It's the consumer, and we want the consumer to buy more, and we want more and more women to use this product. There's industry, and we want here also industries inside of the consumer, right? We want to sell more to the consumer, and we want to make it tax efficient. And then there's the government who wants to collect tax as well as make it affordable for everybody. So I think I'm definitely not in favor of abolishing sanitary napkin tax, because it makes it very inefficient, and of course industry will pass on that tax to the consumers. But I think there are other ways of looking at this problem. One of them is, moving to a flat rate. I think that going to 5 will make it inefficient, but making it 8 or 9%, and if the rates converge there, it is still something that can be worked out, and I think that some sort of a savings can be passed on to consumers. The option is looking
Yes.
at the inverted duty structure, where you have a lot of high input tax credits. Reduce that, or reduce that, move to a lower rate, and I think you will have the answer there, because someone gave the example of puja samagri and sindoor and others. See, those are unorganized sectors, and I'm an organized player. We pay our taxes. Everything is on paper. Nothing is off the books. So we have all this input tax credit. If you take that away from us, a way to offset it, the costs increase. It's that simple. Finally, about the import debate, yes, India is, I think reducing the tax rate, it does have a bearing on manufacturing in India. Mind you that, like you said, 90% market shares with multinational companies, but now we are coming in and we are understanding the women's needs, our local customers' needs better. We
Yes.
need to grow, right? The market is growing. So this needs to be supported. I think if you open it up, you get a lot of cheap product from overseas.
Sure.
Remember, this is a market where you need.
But hang on,
75,000 women have
Sahil,
certificate
is it
cancer each year,
possible
another
to
150 are
discourage
diagnosed with
the
that.
import
Yeah.
of Chinese product with import duty?
Yes, absolutely. So that's what I think, that there are other solutions to the problem, and I'm with every panelist and the activists over here to say, I want this. Every woman in India should use this product. But I think reducing the rates on GST is not the solution. There are other solutions, like improving the trade barriers, or reducing the other input duty. There are other solutions, I believe, that should be looked
All
at.
right, let me bring in Zarita of the Congress Party,
Faye,
who
can I
wanted to
come in?
respond. Zarita, go ahead.
Faye, yesterday we were debating for the right to religion because we bleed. Well, today I want to bleed, and I want to bleed free. So that is one of the most important thing, and I think that there shouldn't be any kind of tax on sanitary napkins. However, if we are looking at the manufacturers, we could look at an environmentally friendly, sanitary napkin that could be tax-free, and the biodegradable ones could be charged at 5%. And secondly, when we were mentioning that 31 members of the GST Council are all men, and they never even consulted the the Women and the Child Development Ministry. I think perhaps that is why the reason is they made condoms tax-free, and sanitary napkins, they charged us at the rate of 12%. That is what they've done, because they haven't even consulted.
Well, Yogita Bayana is a women's rights activist as well. Yogita, go ahead, and then I'll bring in Abhishek Rastogi. Yogita, please.
Faye, I wanted to say that, they did not consult Women in Child Ministry, but Women in Child Ministry, what are they doing? They have NCW-like bodies, they are just taking salaries. They are the one, they should come forward, and I think one step further, they should not only make it tax-free, they should have subsidies on it. Because we need to agree on one fact, that most of our population is underprivileged. I have been also doing some projects with women, underprivileged women, and I have been, talking about hygiene and telling them to use sanitary napkins, but it is difficult, as Trisha also said that. It is difficult to tell them to buy these expensive products, and GST definitely counts 18%, for 12% is huge. So, practically if you think of it, we are talking about Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. What more could be, better than this service to humanity, service to womanhood? If you have to bring about Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, start from here. Reduce, I think, go one step further, give some subsidies to underprivileged women. I think that will be the big game changer. And the bodies are sleeping or what? They should come forward. Women bodies of government, they should be more proactive rather than activists working in hard on it. And talking about it, channels like you, thank you to you, because you've been continuously raising activists like Trisha. They are doing everything what government's supposed to do. They should come pitch in themselves, and they should advocate for the women's right. They have so many bodies, just they are not doing their job properly. So I think it's a good step, maybe 5%. At least we could bring down to 5%, and we see the road ahead. Maybe they will understand, they will become more gender sensitive to understand why we need to bring this change. And it is very, very evident and very, very important. but somebody has to see on the grassroots level. Then only they would realize this is the actual genuine reason, and what women goes
Right,
through,
right.
the health issues.
Well, let me
health
also
issues
bring in
face.
Abhishek Rastogi. Abhishek Rastogi is a tax
I
partner
would
at
like
Qatar.
to-
One second,
Faye,
let
I would
everybody
like
make
to
their
come in
opening
over here.
statements. Let everyone make their opening statements. Abhishek Rastogi is a tax partner at Qatar and Companies. Abhishek Rastogi, go ahead. What do you think when it comes to the tax and sanitary napkins?
I think the first and the most important point is to understand the inverted duty structure and the legal provisions which are prevalent today. There has been a lot of discussion about the cost of the input taxes, the procurement pattern, and so on and so forth, and whether reduction from 12% to 5% or to exempt is a good solution or not. I certainly believe that the rate has to come down. And those who believe that the reduction of the rate would not help, technically there is an answer, because if you see the provisions of section 54 subsection 3, there is a specific provision that if the cost of the taxes on the input side is much more than the output side, then the manufacturer will get the benefit by way of refund from the government.
Yes.
So for the inverted duty structure, there is a refund. So even if the cost of the taxes on the input side is much more than the output, and here of course we are talking about the reduction of the rate to 5% and not taking it to the exempt. So the moment you have an exemption, there is a certainly different problem, but for which also there is a provision to section 54(3) which addresses the problem. But assuming that the rate comes down to 5%, I think in no circumstances the manufacturer would lose on to the amount of the profit which they would make, because there is a provision for refund of inverted duty structure. That's the first point. Second point is how this benefit which would come to the manufacturer would be passed on to the consumers, because that's what the intent of the rate reduction is. And there comes the play of anti-profiteering provisions, because anti-profiteering provisions very clearly provides that where the output tax gets reduced or the input taxes gets increased, which would include the refund on the inverted duty structure, the benefit has to pass on. So in no circumstances, in no way, by no arithmetic or the legal provisions, it can be concluded that the reduction of the rate where we are today to 5% will make the situation worse for the manufacturer. So that's
Right.
the first point.
Right.
Second
Mr.
point, when
Rastogi,
we
I have another
compare these
question for you before you
indigenous
move on to your
manufactured
second
products
point.
with the customs.
Before you move on to your second point, talking about the input credit, which has been used as an argument by the finance minister and by Deepika Sharma right now, that the input credit is at 18%, and then we won't be able to offset it. You'll also remember that when it came to restaurants, the government felt that the restaurants were not doing an honest job of this input credit and they were not passing it on to customers. So they just abolished it for restaurants completely. This input credit system doesn't apply to you at all. So it's possible to do that as well. If we see input tax credit as such a disadvantage to the customers of sanitary napkins, it's possible to just remove it completely and just go with a flat fee. Isn't that true?
No, I think if we see the provisions of refund of inverted duty structure, I think that's one suggestion that could go. But if you see the provisions of inverted duty structure refund, which is very clearly in law, read with anti-profiteering provisions, the reduction of the rate would mean more money to the manufacturer, but at the same time, they would be under the anti-profiteering loop or the scrutiny, which means that they will be compulsorily required to pass on to the benefit of the reduction of the tax rate or incremental refunds by way of inverted duty structure to the ultimate customer. So restaurant, I would not want, the situation of restaurant to be replicated here, because here the in terms of the input taxes, it may be huge. Secondly, I don't think this is the sector which would not pass on to the benefit, which was the apprehension in case of restaurants and all. So I think that may not be a very logical thing here to do. But yes, they should be allowed to take all the credits, and with a compulsion that they have to pass on the benefit, because otherwise anti-profiteering provisions kick in. So that's the first point. Second point was with respect to the comparison between the indigenous production and the products which are imported. Today, IGST is a separate, and wherever there is an import, there is basic customs duty. Plus, if we are within the framework of the WTO regulations, then we can impose a higher customs duty on such products based on values and so on and so forth. That is one. If we strictly want that some restrictions should come for import from specific countries, there the government today has the weapon of anti-dumping or the safeguard duties to protect the domestic industry. So I think those weapons will have to be used rather than arguing that the rate should not be reduced, because of course, you know, on your channel I have made so many number of times this point that there is a provision of refund of inverted duty structure. The rate should come down, the benefit should flow. And what are we talking here about? You reduce restaurants which were at a higher rate of 18%, not even to 12 but to 5, without credits. And here we are talking about such a essential thing which we all know for a fact that, you know, it is essential in terms of the health of the country. So I think that, and what is the quantum? I mean, the GST Council or the Revenue Neutral Rate Committee or the Rate Committee should assess that what is the quantum which we are talking here and how much reduction will help in terms of the health. So I think that number crunching will have to be done by the Finance Minister to come out with the specific points in these writ petitions. And believe me, I have myself filed so many writ petitions based on rate discrimination, whether it is the wheelchair for the handicraft or for the real estate, where the policy of the government also comes into the discussion of arbitrariness. So today we can't say that the rate reduction is just the policy decision and the arbitrariness there cannot be challenged.
Right. Okay.
So
okay.
from the constitution perspective,
all right.
also,
all right. So I don't want to get too
into
the technicality, but Abhishek Rastogi basically saying that the arguments that have been provided to us by the government right now can in fact be worked around. And let's be honest. Okay, fine. Let's say the finance minister understands this process better than anybody else and we should take his word for it. My argument is simply this. It is possible to bring the price down. There must be something you can do. If it's not bringing down the tax under GST, then modify the laws like Abhishek Rastogi said under the income tax credit. There must be something you can do. Reduce the tax on the input or the raw materials used in the product. Something you can do. How is it possible that you're saying that there is absolutely nothing you can do?
If you're using biodegradable
Yes,
if you use biodegradable material and environmentally safe material, definitely the prices will come down.
Faye, I would like to come in over here that being a woman, I am completely in favor of reduction of GST on sanitary napkins. And I would also like to tell you this, that the government, right in this March 2018, has introduced biodegradable sanitary napkins, which are very low priced at 2 rupees 50 paisa. They come in a pack of 4, and the government is distributing it at all the Jan Aushadhi centers and common service centers. Common service centers are numbering 2,000.
We have already raised an objection.
The scheme has just been launched, and in order to have it a mass distribution, and for women to have the
no, one second. Sahil has a problem with the product.
The government is extremely sensitive.
You just said sensitive government. Sahil, what's the problem with the product?
So this biodegradable product is actually supposedly made by using a chemical called oxo-biodegradable. It's an additive, and that's what the specifications say. So we have actually, you know, is it even safe? The government is right now telling us to self-certify that this product is safe, which is a conflict of interest. I don't even know what that chemical is. There has been no skin irritation study done, no toxicology studies done, and you're simply telling any manufacturer to self-certify that this is a safe product. Bureau of Indian Standards governs the regulations of how to make a sanitary pad, and they have not approved this. So I don't believe this is a safe product.
I would like to intervene over here. I would like to.
One second. Let me bring in Trisha Shetty.
88%.
Let me bring in Trisha Shetty.
Women do not have access to sanitary napkins. Only 12% have. So at least something has to be done.
That does not
something
mean
has to be done.
That is substandard.
Then
why should we give them products that is substandard?
What do you mean? If a government, why should we introduce a scheme that is not? It does not mean that it is substandard.
It is very tough decision there and seated the Congress and the BJP together in our Noida studio. Ladies, one second.
But at least the government is making an effort to provide it.
Deepika Sharma, let me take this question. Deepika Sharma, let me take this question
No, I
to
appreciate
Trisha
the
Shetty.
government's
One
effort.
moment.
It's in the right direction with the wrong specification.
Trisha Shetty, so here's what we have. Deepika Sharma, is saying that, oh, the government has created this one product that they're distributing. Now, is it possible for the government to distribute this product to every single woman in the country every month in the quantum that she requires? Every woman requires a different number of pads every month, and she requires them at a certain time of the month, and she requires them to be accessible. Is it possible to reach every woman through this product? And then Sahil Ladia saying that he is not sure whether that product is in fact safe for use and cannot be certified as safe for use. These are not solutions to the tax problem that we're talking about. These might be solutions to other problems. But that doesn't mean we walk away from the problem that's on the table. Trisha Shetty.
You know, to the representative from BJP, let me make it known to you that we have been fighting this for over 2+ years. So we have filed multiple RTIs, and we have all the information to basically tell you straight up that your government is not doing enough, it is doing bare negligible and needs to do a lot more. Why am I making this statement? I'll tell you. For women, we menstruate on an average 2,100 days of our life. If you consider that on average we need 3 pads a day, that comes up to 6,300 pads that we need in our lifetime. Now, if you consider an average cost of 5 rupees per pad, it means that every woman needs up to 31,500 as a cost for sanitary napkins over a lifetime, which is a huge amount for a lot of people. Now, the government already had a scheme for a long time. The biggest scheme that they've been implementing is under the National Rural Health Mission. Okay? And Faye, they have chosen 17 states for the implementation. It is not even across all states, it's chosen 17 states. The total budget for this is 4090 lakhs, 4090 lakhs allocated in 2016 to 2017. In the state of Maharashtra,
I mean,
the budget
you cannot be an absolute critic of the government.
Ma'am, let me complete.
Just quoting figures.
Ma'am, let me complete. I am an absolute critic when it comes to ensuring women are guaranteed access to menstrual hygiene and
No, Deepika Sharma, your question cannot be based, your rebuttal cannot be based on freedom of speech.
That much, ma'am. Let me complete.
Let her finish, please.
Let me complete, because I don't think the truth should scare you this much. When it comes to the state of Maharashtra, the budget is 201 lakhs allocated under the NHM scheme, through which they said that 44 lakh sanitary napkins will be distributed in a total of 6 districts. 6 districts only in Maharashtra, Faye. Because of all of this, when we presented these facts to the High Court has questioned the government. Why only 6 districts? What is happening with the rest of the districts? What have you done so far? How many districts within these 6 districts have you actually distributed the sanitary napkins? Give us numbers. What have you actually done? How many sanitary napkins have you actually distributed? What about expansion to the other districts? So these are the actual numbers to which the government still has not submitted answers to the High Court. Please, ma'am, I'm sorry. Whilst you need more time and you've allocated a mere 201 lakhs.
All right, ladies, you know what? I think the points that Trisha Shetty is making, the point that Trisha Shetty, one second. Calm down. Deepika Sharma, calm down.
They then strut around and say they want time.
May I say something here?
They don't want the common public to hear these numbers because they realize that this government has been
previous governments didn't do for 70 years.
At least coming up with new schemes.
At least
I have no
appreciate
interest
the
in the previous
government is doing
I'm currently
something.
saying my current government tax.
At least doing something.
I am not going to appreciate the tax for efficiency.
At least appreciate that the government is doing something.
So we should be grateful to you that you're at least doing something. You're not doing enough. And let me complete. Instead of coming up with new schemes, there are already schemes in play. This is a distraction tactic.
Finance ministers.
They come up with new schemes.
So hang on. 1 second, Trisha, 1 second.
That the common public will be happy.
What kind of distraction? If a case is going on in the Supreme Court, it has already passed through High Court. The government would be giving intelligent arguments on this.
No, but Deepika Sharma, you can't be, you're right now not addressing the problem of GST on sanitary napkins. You're not addressing the problems being raised by our panel. Your argument is you cannot be a critic of the government. Now, freedom of speech cannot be the argument that you use here.
That the GST Council is meeting, and you may just hear that the government has reduced the GST tax. You may just hear it.
The GST Council, with all due respect, Deepika Sharma has met 28 times. They've met 28 times. And it doesn't matter if they meet another another 40
I have already
times,
given you
it will
one
not
of
change the
panelists,
fact that there are no
Sahil ji
women in the
also
GST
gave you
Council.
the reason why 12.5% tax was put on it. One of
No,
your
I think,
panelists has
to
given
that problem there is a
economic
solution.
logic,
I think
including
to
me,
that
why
problem, when we talk about that there are no
12.5%
women
tax
to
was
in
put
the
on
GST
it.
Council, there is a solution.
One second.
When there are representations made by the bankers are invited to make a presentation before the finance minister and the GST Council. I think
They
when
invite
this
and
matter,
they
which
put
is reached
stores
at such a
up.
stage that there is no outcome coming out of it, the matters have gone to the court. I think the right time is that the GST Council should
Arre, the
invite
government
certain
is
people
gender-
who could
gender
throw light
sensitive.
on numbers. I think the
The
way
government
they
is
should
hardly
quote
gender
about these
sensitive.
numbers.
Okay,
and
let me just tell you why this is a problem. One second, if the panel would please give me a
I think that is
minute.
very essential. Now the GST
If
May I
one
Council
second,
say
one
has
second.
something?
done that in the past for different
Abhishek
sectors. Why not for this sector?
Abhishek Rastogi, one second. You know, I'll tell you why, and I understand what you're saying. You're saying if a group of doctors make a representation, they're invited to present before the finance minister. Or if a group of bankers make a representation, they're invited to present before the finance minister. But being a woman is not a specific job or a qualification. Menstruating once a month is not a specific job or a qualification. Women are half this country. The reason why I keep bringing it up, that you cannot expect that every time there is a decision that affects women, that there will be a group of women who will be invited to present. You need to have women in the room as part of the GST Council. Now, why don't you have women as part of the GST Council? Because they are all finance ministers of various states. And there are no finance. One second, Deepika Sharma. You know what? I want my audience to be able to hear me without Deepika Sharma interrupting me. One second. So the reason why
May I say something, Faye?
we have one second. The reason why we have no women in the GST Council is because the finance ministers of all the states are men. Now, the reason why the finance ministers of all the states are men is because we don't have a women's reservation bill. We don't have a bill that gives us equal representation in parliament and in state assemblies. If we had that bill, we would have more women inside of parliament. Currently, the number is 11%. We're half the population and the number is 11%. And we're not even asking for 50% inside of parliament, we're asking for 33%. But where is that bill? Nobody wants to talk about it. What would happen if you had more women inside of parliament? You would have more women in the GST Council. And when someone was making this point, there would be somebody there who has used the product. There would be somebody there who understands what this product's final use is. There would be somebody there who's more sensitive. There would be somebody there inside of parliament today who would be raising the issues of crime against women. There isn't enough representation. The ones who are there are silenced. And that is the point I'm making today. Let me take this back to the panel right now. And like I keep saying, we can keep arguing about the input tax credit and this tax credit and that tax credit. Let the people who understand this best decide what they want to do, but for heaven's sake, do something. What is your argument, Deepika Sharma? Where is the women's reservation
We are doing
bill?
something.
What are you doing? Where is the women's reservation bill?
We are committed.
Where are the women in the
we
BJP?
did
Why
not-
haven't you
we
made a
did
representation
not
to the
have-
government to bring down the tax on
Congress
sanitary
allowed-
napkins?
Faye,
The
if I may
Congress
offer a
allowed to
solution.
lapse. In its 10 years, the Congress allowed to lapse the women reservation bill. We are committed to bringing it. Today we have a relative majority in the Rajya Sabha. We are committed to bringing it, and who knows?
Where is it? Are you
who
going to
knows
table it in this
particular
session?
itself, it may be introduced.
Can I come in?
It may be
Can I come
introduced.
in?
Sarita, go
Yes.
ahead, please.
Yes, it will be introduced.
Yeah. You know, Faye, it is very, very sad that we live in a country, you know, and we have a government which is totally misogynistic, and we are being taxed for our biological process. It is indeed very, very sad. In fact, I think sanitary napkins should be distributed free of cost
Why
by
did
the
not
government.
UPA did
This
it?
is one point.
Why did not
Second,
UPA did
when
for
we are
10
talking,
years?
when we are talking,
They-
I'm
they-
in
they-
complete
talking,
support
please
of
don't
that.
interrupt.
It's not
I did
just
not
about
interrupt when they were
affordability, it's
talking.
about
Reality
learning
on
how to
television.
use
When
it.
you're talking
Why
about the
did
women
not- why did
reservation,
not
All right,
UPA
okay,
did it for
okay.
10
Say
years?
something here.
All right, PCR, can we have Sahil Daria, please?
installed.
I'm just going to ask the production control room if I can hear Sahil Daria's mic. Please go
Faye.
ahead. Go ahead, Sahil.
Faye, yeah, if I may. So the government actually is, taken a few steps. So the solution to this problem, I feel, is not just about tax rates. In a country where 80% women don't use it, we need to get more women to start using this. And the rationale is the women participation of workforce is abysmal. You know the data point. If women participation rates match those of men, our GDP jumps at 26%, right? And why? Because 23% girls drop out of school at puberty. If they don't get educated, they don't get a job. If they don't get a job, that's so the solution to this, and the government has taken the right steps in this direction, is give free sanitary napkins in school. This is not an expensive product. I mean, you give many other freebies. This is a product you can count. This is a product that's accountable. There's an organized industry to do that. I think if they're doing this, this is something we should encourage definitely the girls to do, because it's not just about money. Mind you, a sanitary pad costs about $4 a piece in the market, right? So it's not just about money, it's about the mindset. When a girl starts going to school, she needs to be told about it. So we actually do intensive work on the field in schools. We try to educate a girl why she should use a sanitary napkin, how to use a sanitary napkin, and how to dispose it. So the sanitary napkin program, the government of India, not the government of India, but several other states are doing, is a step in the right direction. That we should do a lot more of that, at the cost of sounding like it's my business. But that's what's required.
Trisha Shetty, please. Trisha Shetty.
May I interject, please? Because respectfully to my colleague who's spoken before me, what you're stating is categorically untrue, because again, the data does not prove what you're saying. 80% of women do not use sanitary napkins in India because they cannot afford them. Only 19% don't know about them. So this argument that, we need to educate women on the need for sanitary napkins, that they don't know about them, that we need to raise awareness, is again obfuscating from the real issue of cost being the primary factor that women cannot use them. The major factor, 80%. Second thing, when you talk about the government distributing sanitary napkins in schools, yes, it's needed, but if you do an audit of schools, you don't have to look that far off. If you do an audit of schools in Bombay, which is a metropolitan city, you will realize that these sanitary napkins are not being distributed in government schools. They have not even put incinerators like they said they would to make sure that the sanitary napkins are disposed of correctly. And again, I'm going back to the fact that under the National Rural Health Scheme and the Rashtriya Dhairya Scheme that they have in place, the budgets that they've allocated are so abysmal that it is not enough to cover districts. Forget states, it is not enough to ensure that women across rural India have access to sanitary napkins. Please ask the government to submit an audit of how many schools they've actually covered, and in a sustained plan, again, not going and distributing it once, because it's a sustained cost and it's a sustained need for a product. So how often do they do monthly drives? How many times do they distribute sanitary napkins within these schools? Please ask the government to submit this audit, because they don't do enough.
Right, I want to bring in Yogita Bayana, because Yogita Bayana works in schools in Uttar Pradesh. She works, one second, Sahil. Yogita Bayana works in schools in and around the NCR region. In your experience, Yogita, are the free sanitary pads, or the pads for 2 rupees, actually reaching the people that need them?
Randomly, Faye, it is reaching. I'm not denying the fact, because I've been going personally to these government schools also. It is going randomly, not in a very methodical way, in a way it should be. We need a corporate kind of a push in this sector, which is not there. It is moving as a government moves, Ideal way is to move through Asha workers. There are, and in Delhi government, they are doing their job, but again, it is not done the way we want it to be done. And if you really do impact study, the budget we are going to save on health will be much more, lesser than what we will spend on this. So government needs to understand this fact that after a woman goes through health issues, not using sanitary napkins, the budget will be much, much higher. So if they are spending on the prevention, I think if they take it as prevention also, they can really, they need to have hefty budget, and they should have hefty budget, and somebody should advocate from the government. Within the government, as you rightly said, there is no representation of the women. So rightly going the right direction, we need to catch it from all the corners, and in a watertight kind of a situation. But really, a lot of work has to be done even now. They are doing. I mean, I'm not denying that there is no work being done, but it still needs to be speed up.
Well, I'm going to bring in Mr. Rastogi here. Abhishek Rastogi, you're the tax expert. The GST Council is going to meet this weekend, and I keep coming back to this weekend.
Sahil wanted to counter
yes, I'll give you an opportunity, Deepika.
Sahil ji.
1 second. And Deepika, I will remind you that Sahil Daria is on your side here. He's actually saying positive things about the government. I don't know why you want to counter him at this point, but go ahead.
I am not saying who is on my side, who is not, but he wanted to counter it. Why are you not giving him the opportunity to counter it? Otherwise, I will counter what Trisha has said
Okay,
on
go ahead.
program.
Counter what Trisha has said. Go on. Counter what Trisha has said.
the figures
so
that
actually, I
Trisha
was
is
gonna say
quoting
there's
on
No,
your
no,
channel
Deepika Sharma. Deepika
are
Sharma.
okay. Okay, the figures which Trisha has quoted on your channel are completely biased. She is not lauding that 70 years since independence, no government has taken initiative. Our government has taken initiative for that. A. Second of all is this, that as far as the reduction of 12.5 the GST is concerned on sanitary pads, the GST Council is already mulling over it, and 2 days later you may get to hear the decision. It was purely an economic decision. It was not based upon any gender insensitivity or something. Second of all is that the issue that is coming again and again, that had GST Council had representation of women or something, I would simply like to ask that all the finance ministers that were there, do not they have female members in their household, sisters, brothers, wives? Second of all is this, that there are, this is Gram Swaraj Abhiyan, where more than 3,000 common service centers have been set, where a person, preferably an ASHA worker, goes to various schools in the villages and is distributing the sanitary napkin. The government is committed on it, and it is going to expand in a very major way.
Rebuttal, please.
You know, firstly, I have, again, let me categorically make it known to you, because I feel like you think I'm attacking the BJP. I have no agenda against the BJP, or I'm not pro any other political party. I am critiquing the government that we have elected, and as tax-paying citizen, it is my right to do so. And I'm critiquing the government because at the end of the day, women are suffering because the government is not doing enough. Telling us that we've launched a new scheme, that wait, be patient, at least we're doing more than what the previous regime did, is not enough. So when you're talking about the current schemes, I gave you the numbers and I told you how much budget is allocated. In Maharashtra, you've allocated a budget of 201 lakhs. Ma'am, let me complete, because I did not heckle you when you were talking. Ma'am, let me complete. Ma'am, let me complete. Ma'am, let me complete. Not in my dictionary.
Deepika Sharma, let her finish
let me
speaking.
complete.
Let her finish speaking, please.
I did not heckle you when you were finishing. If you state that a budget of 201 lakhs being allocated to the entire state of Maharashtra to ensure that women get access to sanitary napkins is enough, then I find that laughable. 201 lakhs when 3,500 crores are being allocated to a statue. So please, let us give the importance of ensuring that women have access to guaranteed menstrual hygiene products a little bit more.
Do not bring the debate of a statue vis-a-vis sanitary pads, because people like you will never understand what India stands for. When they say statues के ऊपर इतना पैसा खर्च हो गया है, people like you will never understand the idea of India.
That India stands for women of its country, and that when the women of its country are prioritized and given access to equal rights and opportunities, that is when the country will truly progress. That is what people like me believe, ma'am.
I need to understand. We need to understand India better, Trisha Shetty, because apparently now women are not even citizens of this country anymore. We don't understand India better. We don't understand in India. And you want me to understand India better? You help me, Deepika Sharma, because I don't understand India. I don't understand India, where women have to fight for basic cleanliness. This is what we are asking for today. Sanitary pads. This is the superpower of the world, where India, we were asking for sanitary pads. What do we fight for in this country? We fight to be born as women. We fight to go to school as women. We fight to go to college as women. We fight for basic safety. We're constantly looking over our shoulders to see if there's someone in the lift, if there's someone in the taxi, if there's someone in the bus, if there's someone in the bus stop, is there someone in the auto, is there someone at the end of the street who wants to grope me, wants to rape me, wants to murder me. This is how we live in this country. We're constantly fighting. We fight to go to school, we fight to go to college, we fight to come home from college, we fight to go to work, we fight to be allowed to work, we fight to be allowed to be married while we're working, we fight to to have babies when we're working, we fight for the choice to have babies or the choice not to have babies. If we work late and we come home, we fight for the ability to do so without getting raped. On this channel, we run stories of how plastic bags are discovered in nalas with aborted baby girls in it, because those baby girls were not given the option of being born. The numbers of rape in our country are more heinous and higher than they have ever been. Ever been. And I don't want to know the reasons. I just know that they're higher than they have ever been. And there is nothing, there is not a day in our lives that we are not fighting. And if you think that I don't understand India, then I don't understand this India. Point me to one woman in this country, rich or poor, tall or short, fat or thin, who has not fought for every day in her life. And tell me how to understand this India. And the argument that don't you think the men on the GST Council have mothers and sisters and daughters and that should make them sensitive? No, I am not a mother or a sister or a daughter. I am a citizen of this country. I don't want your motherly respect and your sisterly respect and your daughterly respect. I want what is mine. That is my right as a citizen. And my right is equal representation in the GST Council. My right is equal representation in Parliament and in state assemblies. When will I get that? And I'm telling you today, as I promise you, it's not just the GST Council. I will not stop. We will not stop until every room in this country, every table in this country where a decision is being made that will affect our lives is not 50% women. Because we are just as good as you at everything, and you will not lock us out anymore. We will break down those doors. That women's reservation bill will come today. If it doesn't come today, it will come 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Watching this channel right now might be the next woman prime minister of this country, who might become woman prime minister 50 years from today, but God help me, it will happen. We will get the representation we deserve. We will get the voice we deserve. We will create an India that I understand, an India where girls don't have to be fought. They don't have to fight to be born. They don't have to fight to go to school. They don't have to fight to go to college. They don't have to fight to simply live. But you can get into a lift and not look around and worry if the person who's in the lift with you is going to assault you. Where you can get into an auto rickshaw or a metro or a train or a bus and not wonder if it is the last time you will board a vehicle. That is the India that we truly deserve. We're fighting for sanitary napkins. There are people who will defend this sanitary napkin thing. It's nonsense. It's garbage. Work with us. Don't fight us on this. There's no hope for those who stand against the women of this country. It will come eventually, but we will fight until it does. Equal representation. Stakeholding in all decisions. And a country where we are in fact treated like the citizens that we are. Thanks for watching.